I'm Andy Abramson, Chief Marketing Officer for SkySwitch, and I'm going to be moderating today's very interesting, very timely webinar about safe work. Everybody thinks about working from home, but what about the people who can't? What about the buildings, the offices, the power plants, the places that all require someone to be on site, someone to take care of things, someone to make sure business as usual is running during a period of business unusual. Give you a little bit of background. I grew up in the sports and arena business. For many years, I was in the Philadelphia Flyers organization at the Spectrum in Philadelphia. And if you came in the tunnel entrance of the Spectrum because you had a reason to come in that way, not as a fan, but as a worker, as a supplier, as a delivery person, or as a player, there was usually somebody at the tunnel gate at the door who would open that door and let you in. And then there was another guard sitting about 60 yards away who would make sure that you only went to the right, not the left. The right was where the players' areas were, the dressing rooms, the offices for the operations crew, the power area. You didn't go to the left because, well, that was taking you towards the front of the house, towards the management offices. And usually people who came in the back didn't have a reason to go up front. Well, in today's scenario, that would be easy. Someone would have hit a button, and you'll hearing from one of our guests about how loudspeakers and outdoor phones are possible, or how a camera would have alerted somebody. So right now we had 2 or 3 people in that environment working to make sure people went the right way, when in reality, probably 1 would have done. Same thing with deliveries. There was a delivery, someone would knock on the door, someone would have to open the door, someone would have to let them in. With safe work devices in place, that wouldn't be necessary. Then there was also my time in the drugstore. Every once in a while, our trucks would show up, or the pharmacy delivery would show up, and somebody would pound on the back door. Well, the back door was our break room and our warehouse room. But if it wasn't lunchtime or someone wasn't on break, they would be pounding for minutes and usually walk around and say, "Hey, I'm here. Can someone let me in the back?" We're hoping to overcome all of that with our safe work solutions and tell you many, many, many other examples. On our webinar today, we have 2 experts. First is Justin Baker, who is the sales and engineer support specialist with us at SkySwitch, focusing on video surveillance. If you want to know what we call him, he's the expert. He's the camera guy. And before SkySwitch, Justin worked in technical and customer support for over 10 years, with most of that in video surveillance as a service, otherwise known as VSAS. Now, he thrives on helping others solve technical problems and breaking down those complex ideas into easy to understand words so anybody, especially our resellers, can use that information to help sell it in to their customers. Now, like many SkySwitch, Justin works remote and works from home. He's in Austin, Texas, and you can often find him with his passion for tinkering with cars in his garage, driving around Austin, and there's a lot to do in Austin, or taking the trails with his dogs and his girlfriend. We're also going to be joined with a good friend of SkySwitch, Phil Lembo. Phil is the president of CyberData, and CyberData specializes in SIP-based voice over IP paging and mass notification devices. A few weeks ago on our How to Work from Home Successfully webinar, we touched on what CyberData can do for those who couldn't exactly work from home and need to be working in safe work environments. That's why we've invited Phil to tell us all about what CyberData has to offer, so our resellers who are put in the position of having to supply devices that their customers need for a safe work environment can learn more about them. Today, our agenda is as follows. We're going to go over the 3 big problems that COVID-19 is presenting for businesses that have on-site services. We're also going to talk about how CamCommand can be used to help essential businesses by providing tips on how to deploy it and how to sell CamCommand. That's really important for your resellers who have customers who are asking for video surveillance or on-premise cameras. We're also going to present some new use cases that CyberData has observed for video-based intercom paging solutions. For example, those of you who might be going to get some lab work done for medical checkups right now, you're going to show up and there's going to be a camera outside on the doorbell, and then they're going to let you in. that type of scenario is something Phil's going to talk deeply about. And also, lastly, what cyber data does to help end users work safely when they're on site, so they're as safe as those people who are working from home. Now, we often say that solutions without problems are not what you want. So today we're going to present the problems where we actually have solutions that people are experiencing every day. Unattended businesses have resulted in an uptake in burglaries and vandalism and break-ins. You know, walking around my local neighborhood at the local library, there's a guard walking outside to keep the vagrants and the homeless and the criminals from breaking into a library. Schools are deploying more guards, but with video surveillance, a lot of that cost might be able to be minimized. Essential workers are often unable to work from home, and they need to be on the job site, construction workers. But what about the administrator? Does the administrator need to be there? Well, in a safe work environment, they can. And there's certain businesses that have to regulate who's allowed on site. We're going to talk about those problems and what the solutions are. So with that, we welcome everybody for joining. We have a great crowd today. It's nice to see everybody. We'll have some questions, and we'll actually have a prize or two from cyber data at the end of the webinar. And we'll hear from Phil what that is at that time. So now let me pass it over to Jason Baker. Why have I been calling you Justin Baker? Over to Justin Baker, our VSAS specialist, to talk all about tackling the problem surrounding video surveillance. Good morning, Justin.
Thank you, Andy. And don't feel bad. I've been called Jason pretty much my whole life. So I wonder if I should change my name. But
I have no idea where we have so many Jasons in the company. Our product reviewer, Jason Harris, our VP of sales, Jason Jones. I saw the J and I immediately went to, and my old good friend, Jason Hervey, so from the Wonder Years, otherwise known as Butthead. So why don't we talk a little bit about what CamCommand is and what it features and why it's so important for resellers to be able to talk about this to their customers.
Absolutely. All right, so to start here, we're going to talk about the initial question. What is the demand? What is it that business owners are looking for? I mean, during these interesting times, businesses deemed non-essential, or those that have forced employees to work from home, are experiencing an incredible rise in burglary. I mean, this week alone, I read a statistic that in New York, commercial burglaries are up a whopping 75% from last year. Same goes with educational institutes. Hotels and restaurants are also a large target for theft, as they all house expensive and vast number of assets. While many business owners have already considered and protecting their businesses with an alarm or a surveillance system, typically an on-premise device, some have not. And those with the on-premise device are now realizing what exactly their installed solution is missing. So now more than ever, businesses are at a rather high risk of burglary given the stay-at-home orders, and owners absolutely need a solution. An easy access video surveillance solution will provide business owners the ability to see what's going on without being there. Now, for a solution, you got to have the advantages, right? In this case, over an on-premise device, whether that's an NVR, a DVR, a NAS storage device with cameras, what have you. So VSAS advantages, they kind of range. They're all over the place, especially in comparison to on-premise devices. A VSAS solution provides numerous advantages over any on-premise system. Of course, those listed in the slide here are only a few, but speak the loudest. The first being deployment of cameras, and connection to the cloud can be a snap. It literally can take minutes. Just give the camera access to the internet, give it power, and you can connect it to CamCommand. The solution can be provided in a very short period of time, as I stated, and can be also done so in stages if desired. So businesses can cover their most valuable areas first and later add on by simply installing another camera, by connecting it again to the internet network, and that's it. Unlike on-premise solutions, which require a lot of planning up front before implementation, for example, knowing the exact number of cameras to be installed, how long the retention period is wanted or required, as well as how much hard drive space to allocate to store the desired period of time, deciding who's going to manage the system and how to properly secure the solution from damage or theft. I mean, it's very common for on-premise devices to be stolen these days or damaged during a burglary. Very easy to trace back camera cabling from a device all the way back to either the networking closet or even further back to the actual NVR or storage solution on the premise. So getting into that, a more secure cloud-based VMS solutions remove the physical servers or recording devices from the premise, so you're not having to worry about that theft or damage. This ensures that the footage is recorded is no longer susceptible to either of those. On top of that, the video footage streamed to the cloud is all encrypted on a secure AWS cloud repository, as well as stored across multiple data centers to ensure your full redundancy. You'll always have access to video stored in the cloud. Now, along with that too, we're going to dip into the savings that can be made by both resellers and end users. Resellers can shorten service calls with an easy deployment and reduction of overall equipment to be serviced. So you're no longer installing the heavy storage devices, you're no longer having to maintain them, update them, upgrade them, or even add on to them. End users can also take advantage of the savings by reducing the upfront costs imposed by those on-premise pieces of equipment. Again, the most savings come from removing the expensive equipment and setup from the upfront costs. So we'll dip down here into essentially the services offered by a VSaaS solution. What is VSaaS? If you're not familiar, although I'm sure most of you are, it's a cloud-based video surveillance system where video is located in the cloud, obviously. The service typically includes video recording, storage, remote viewing, event alerts, which is essentially the same as actionable alerts, cybersecurity, etc. Video cloud service was essentially created to make video security easier and provide substantial economies of scale for businesses. Using a shared infrastructure equates to lower cost of ownership due to the lower upfront capital expenditures as previously mentioned. Fully utilized hardware, reduced IT staff, investment, and so on. So what this does, this allows end users to record and view video surveillance footage, access control records, and so on from anywhere, literally anywhere via a web browser or via your phone with a mobile application interface. So
why don't you talk a little bit about, Justin, why don't you talk a little bit how it's white labeled and, how how a reseller can be, able to sell this as if it's their own service, not simply CamCommand. I think that's a real important point.
Absolutely, yeah. So what this offers is very similar to the VoIP products. So you have a platform that is completely brandable to your business. So clients will access their actual account if they're going through a web browser, through a custom web domain with your company name, and then the camcommand.com domain tacked on to the end. If they're accessing it via a mobile app, they will see nothing in regard to what CamCommand is in regard to SkySwitch. Fully brandable, to where you can enter your company information, your logo, and any support contacts that they may have, or any questions regarding the platform itself, they will be contacting you directly using that information. So this gives you an edge to not just be providing, some third-party service to clients that you're really not responsible for. You can give them a peace of mind that they're actually getting, if they're going with VoIP, they're also getting a cloud-based camera solution from a single party. So the solution, as I said, CamCommand, that's what we're getting into. CamCommand provides resellers the opportunity to offer yet another absolutely necessary solution to their customers. Completely white label platform, similar to setup and management as you're used to with the VoIP product. Easy to install, cost effective for resellers and end users, more streamlined than traditional VMS solutions, and solves a problem that all businesses are subject to. So to get into the features here, instant access. Primary advantage of a VSaaS solution is access, the ability for customers to have eyes on their business at any time from anywhere. This provides a rather unique opportunity for them to see what's going on at the important moments that they need to. Video footage can be accessed instantly via, again, mobile application or directly from a web browser. Hardly any of the on-premise hardware systems available today can implement such ease of access, at least to do so in a cost-effective manner. So give customers the ability to feel like they're right there at their place of business without having to actually even be there. Scalability. There's not always a need, again, to implement a complex video surveillance system at first. Businesses can take advantage of one or a small number of cameras initially, while having the ability to easily and cost-effectively grow their video surveillance solution as they wish, or once they realize the numerous benefits that come along with a VSaaS solution. And to be honest, The latter is most common. People don't always realize what is possible with a video surveillance solution until they get their hands on such products, especially those that are currently using an antiquated and needlessly complicated on-premise solution. It's really a no-brainer. And typically those that start off with just one camera or a couple cameras will quickly move on to either adding all their cameras to the solution or adding separate cameras to the solution as well. So easy scaling provides business owners who may not have previously considered a video surveillance solution the ability to have access to it, even in haste during these times, and later expanding the solution or even shrink it dynamically if things ever return to quote unquote normal. And next would be the PBX integration. So I'm sure most resellers on this call are dealing with the PBX or VoIP side of things. VoIP and VSaaS essentially go hand in hand. Both are providing many of the same solutions and features, such as simple dynamic scaling, a higher level of security, more available features, and increased accessibility being the top. Useful integration between VoIP and VSaaS devices is also possible. PBX door intercoms with built-in cameras can be connected to CamCommand to provide an additional surveillance layer. Motion-based notifications can be used to combat package thefts as well as vandalism. Recorded footage from an access point can also help with employee or customer accountability given the time, tracking who and when someone is entering or exiting the building, and ensuring that they're actually following the protocol that may be set for that business. Finally, event notifications. They're probably one of the most important part of any security solution. These give you the opportunity to know, again, where and when something is happening. Cloud-based video solutions are known to implement the latest and most desired analytical tools, and they're built right into the platform. They're there for you always. No meaningless updates or having to update your on-premise devices. It's all part of the CamCommand package.
So Justin, when you talk about event notifications, one of our other services is appointment reminders. I think of them both in the category of alerts, that someone's being alerted to it. When an event notification occurs in the CamCommand environment, why don't you discuss a little bit how someone's notified and go through the various modes of communication that are available to someone who might either be on site or might be the control center, or it could be the lone worker, or it could be someone remotely. What are the different types of alerts and notifications that CamCommand offers?
Absolutely. Now, and this might range with the actual type of camera and the features available on them, but the most popular event notification being, of course, motion. So anytime motion occurs, and again, based on the camera, you may have one single motion pane that you can set. So for the camera's view, you can set an area where you want to be detected if motion occurs, as well as control the sensitivity and thresholds for those so that you're not getting meaningless alerts when, say, a mouse runs across the floor. Besides motion event notifications, you have other notifications such as tampering. So if somebody walks up to a camera and covers it, spray paints it, or pushes it over into a different position, you can also get notification. Facial detection, not to be confused with facial recognition. It's not looking at a library of faces just yet, but cameras do have the ability to detect in certain areas, again, if you set them, or an entire pane, to always be looking for a facial feature and send an alert if it discovers one. Finally, IVA, intelligent video analysis. This is where it really gets into the deep water. You can set virtual lines in certain areas that's within the camera pane to set, if somebody's crossing into a space, you'll get an alert, as well as intrusion. If somebody is appearing, moving an object inside of an area, or runs through an area or is coming towards the camera, you can get alerts, as well as enter and exit, and loitering, especially good for the PBX integration as well. If somebody's hanging out at your entryway without ringing the doorbell and they've not moved in a while, or they're just kind of hanging out, you can get notification there as well and react to it. Now, in terms of notifications, there are two types. You can either get it directly on your mobile device, where it's going to send a push notification directly to your phone or your mobile tablet, and you can react from there and open up the CamCommand platform with just a swipe of the finger and take a look at what's going on. The other would be an email alert as well, which is in a sense a redundant solution if you don't prefer to get push notifications.
Justin, as part of these notifications, do they go to a group of people, or do they just go to a single person, or is it a way to do mass notifications, and as soon as one person acknowledges it, they are all eliminated and everybody else knows the matter's been cleared or addressed. How does that work?
Sure, and we'll touch on this here on the next slide as well, but to really kind of dip into it here, in terms of notification with CamCommand platform, you have the ability to add guest users. And what guest users are essentially people that have been given access to a select number of cameras or a certain group of cameras that you want to provide to them. So you can easily delegate, camera oversight or response to specific cameras. So any person that has been invited as a guest has the ability to turn on notifications, select which notifications they want to receive, whether that's email or push notifications. And at that point, they can be notified in bulk. So anybody that's looking at that camera that has notifications set, they'll all get the same prompt to react to whatever's happening in that pane. Now, in terms of if something has been solved, that would have to be handled outside the CamCommand platform, either by an easy text or maybe shoot an email to somebody and say, oh, hey, it's really nothing. I checked it out. I went back in time, looked at the footage, and it's nothing worth reacting to. Or obviously, if something is occurring, you'll have, say 5 people react to it at the same time, in which I'm sure they'll have their own internal implementation of how to contact one another. But yes, along with guest users, you also have, we'll call this a limitless feature for both users and camera connections. So with cameras, further tying into the scalability portion of it is the lack of limits. There's really 0 limit to the number of cameras that can be connected to a CamCommand account. Connect cameras from an infinite number of locations to a single point of access. This is something, again, that's not possible with nearly all on-premise solutions. You'll have 5 different applications for each site, having to log in here or log into a VPN there or download an app with a peer-to-peer connection here. It's as simple as one single access point for any camera. Same goes for the guest users. You can, again, super delegate any of your camera reactions or any of the camera oversight to an unlimited number of guest users. So really this works, again, for delegation as well as camera access can be shared to a person outside of the business if required for whatever use case, without the fear of them having the ability to make changes to the camera settings or access to unshared cameras on the account or ability to view any sensitive information that may be held within the account. They'll simply have access to the live view as well as any recorded footage. Guest users will essentially create their own account on CamCommand for free and have instant access to the assigned cameras and notifications from them. Users can be added, edited, removed at any time directly from the web interface or from the mobile application. Okay, let's go ahead and move on to the next slide here.
Okay, so when you look at, we talked about in the introduction, the CamCommand solves certain problems. And as part of solving problems, having a good solution in place is so important. Can you take everybody through just how easy CamCommand is to deploy, why it's got all the right features and benefits that someone would need who wants to deploy a video solution on their premises, and how this really creates a safer, healthier, and saner, calmer work environment? I think if we can go over those things in the next few minutes, our resellers will really be able to drive home the message to the customers of theirs who need a solution like this. And candidly, not everyone needs this, but there are certain scenarios like restaurants where the owner wants to keep an eye on the door, the bar, the cash register from the back because they're not out in front all the time. There's other situations where the property's so large you can't possibly have people everywhere. So why don't you go through some of the needs for this, and then also how the cloud-based solution makes it easier too.
Absolutely. And this all starts with deployment for resellers. The actual installation of cameras, connection to the CamCommand, it can be done within a couple minutes. Simply connect the camera to the internet access and give it power, and then mount it. With our plug-and-play devices, it's, again, within a couple minutes. Input a serial number, or with certain cameras, you can scan the network, detect the cameras, and add them in bulk, or just by scanning a QR code, and that's it. No port forwarding, no managing the customer's network. It's all very simple. And again, that's going to be the highlight of CamCommand as a solution, is the scalability of deployment as well. You can start with one camera at an important part, and once they get a taste or understand the need of further cameras, they can deploy it without any future thought, any planning, any hard drive space, number of cameras, how many channels on an NVR. It's really that easy. Just give a camera internet access, give it power, add it to CamCommand. So what this does, especially with the deployment, it really streamlines everything. So your service technicians are spending less time out there determining, where a camera should be, or how to get power to it, or how to get Ethernet to it, or how to oversee, any on-premise equipment. Along with that removal of the on-premise storage, you're also reducing the time spent maintaining it, right? So all you have is one piece of equipment out there, maybe two. You have camera, and then you have a PoE switch, perhaps. That really, those are kind of set it and forget it items. So what this comes into, again, easily to deploy, easy to scale, and then along with that, you're getting really two things in one. You're getting a built-in security system. You're not just getting video surveillance to where you're just recording footage and storing it for later analysis, or going back to the events that occurred. You're getting a built-in security solution, so an alarm system per se, to where you're actually getting live, updated information as to what is happening at your business at that moment. And again, you can determine what type of notifications you get, whether it's motion, tampering, what have you. All of those details, they can be right in front of you in your pocket, right? So for better oversight of who's coming and going, right? Or if I have an important place or a cash register, who's there? Can I look at that all day? Can I get notifications for when a certain area around the cash register is tampered with? Yes, absolutely. So what this provides is just something simple, something that can be just thrown in a couple hours, give the customers access to it, and they can run with it. They can really take advantage and use this without having to hire security guards, to roam about, or having to, trust their employees who they might not be able to trust, and just generally give them a complete and total control over what they're viewing at all times. So I suppose as a safe work solution, CamCommand can obviously be used in many ways, including a method of monitoring areas that may be sensitive or restricted during the pandemic, get notified instantly when someone enters such an area and be able to react to it immediately, all while, again, recording the event for liability and accountability.
When I think about something like this, there's a deployment cycle, and you've got the hardware deployment, and a lot of our resellers do on-premise networking and installation of computers and backup devices and Wi-Fi access points and other things like that, power over Ethernet, connectivity, Ethernet devices, etc. So what's it look like from an on-premise deployment standpoint about how easy it is to deploy it? And then what about the software side and the integration with them through the SkySwitch dashboard as a reseller? How's all that work?
Sure. So essentially how it works from step one, you'll meet with your customer. You'll understand, what it is that they need. If it's just a hasty device, they need to look at this one specific area for this certain period of time until this all is over with, if it does. And again, you can just go in there and install a camera, connect it to CamCommand, give them access to it. But from point A to Z, what you're looking at is obviously talk to them, figure out their solution needs. B, especially important with any type of camera system, you're going to be limited to bandwidth, right? So if a customer only has so much upload speed to stream, say 1 or 2 cameras, be able to determine that first and up front before you even offer them a solution. Once you determine that it's viable, at that point, you would go down the road of selecting the compatible equipment, whatever they need. If they need to actually integrate with their own on-site equipment that exists, just to take advantage of the cloud solution, that can also be done as well. So determine the hardware. Once you've done that, you'd simply just get into the installation, which again is pretty much a snap, especially with plug and play devices. I would always lean more towards a plug and play device if possible. And we offer plug and play devices from numerous brands, I believe 5 different brands now at this time, who provide hundreds of different types of cameras that are definitely going to suit the need. So based on their budget, what camera they need, select that, and then simply again ensure that they have say a cabling run to where the camera is needed. So you'll need to be able to give it power and internet access. Once you do so, just a simple mounting of the device and then the connection to CamCommand, and that is a snap, again, especially with plug and play devices. So once that connection is made to the CamCommand service, your user, your end user, will get their own login. They'll be able to set their own password, download the mobile app, and access it immediately. So you could truly have a solution ready to go in a couple of hours, again, depending on your plan, versus an on-premise solution, which again, it takes a lot of thought up front. There's a lot of planning that's going to be necessary. And if a company wants to grow, they're going to end up spending even more so on, say, just for instance, a 16-channel NVR, when at first they only need 8 cameras. So that's a very large investment. And they have equipment on hand that is not going to be used or maybe used later and is just going to waste. Here you get total value out of your hardware. And if a user installs 4 cameras up front and decides later on that they want to install more, there's no planning to it. You just make sure that they have enough internet bandwidth, you install the cameras, you connect them to CamCommand, and they'll again have immediate access to it. So it's really a no-brainer solution. In terms of deployment, you'll have essentially 3 different ways. Start with a minimum number of cameras, connect them all to the cloud, and that's it. Give them access to it. No on-premise storage, no extra tidbits, no extra equipment. Along with that, you can have a hybrid solution as well, to where, say they have an on-premise solution currently, an NVR, a DVR, a NAS device, what have you, and they don't have enough bandwidth, or they don't want to take on a cloud solution all the way up front just yet. They're really not sure. They want to get a feel for it. You can take 1, 2, 3 of those cameras from that on-premise solution and connect it to CamCommand, to where you have 1, 2, 3 cameras with a redundant solution, to where if that on-premise device is ever stolen or damaged, you'll still have a stream to the cloud. And again, for your most important cameras, your front entrance, your back entrance, your cash register, your equipment room, your warehouse, what have you, you'll still have access to it, and you'll still have that local redundant storage as well. And this is typically a solution. This hybrid installation is where, again, customers will get a taste for all the features that are involved with CamCommand or any VSaaS solution, and they'll want to add more. So they'll start migrating all their cameras to the cloud. And typically, once they do that, they'll lose the on-site equipment. And finally, just a fully redundant cloud solution, to where you have all of your cameras streaming to both a local hard drive or storage device as well as to the cloud. This is not so common, at least yet, because a redundant solution doesn't really make much sense for some folks. The typical way you would see this implemented would be, say, a camera with an SD card that's directly loaded into it, to where you have your local storage directly on an SD card at a relatively low cost. And then you're streaming to CamCommand, maybe with a little bit less retention, say 7 days, versus maybe the SD card is storing 30 days, to where you do have, if anything does happen to, say, if the device loses internet access, they still have local storage, but they can still take advantage of the cloud solution in the portal, to where they can access it right away. They can make the changes they need to the camera. They can, review the recorded footage directly from their phone, from anywhere in the world.
Let me ask you a really important question for our resellers. They all are interested in selling more services. They may have some customers who CamCommand is ideally suited for. Can you give them some tips and tricks on how to not only present it, but how to close somebody by telling the right story and presenting the right information, presuming that they've already done the basics of qualifying the customer as someone who needs CamCommand?
Sure. And the first one is going to be obviously having the option to provide a quick setup that's easy to use. Again, touching back on, businesses that may not have thought about, the idea of not being able to actually access their place of business for some time, right? That's troubling to them now. People are actually thinking about that. Or again, those that have a local on-premise solution that is not easily accessed, or they're not able to administer further access because they can't go to their place of work. So having something that's quick and easy to deploy, it gives them a quick and easy option for oversight. So we're not waiting, we're not planning for an on-premise. There's not a lot of thought that goes into it. It's simply, I need this camera and I need it here and I need it now. And that's something that CamCommand, totally offers. It's such an easy solution to deploy and offer and make ready for that client. It's really a no-brainer. As well as resellers that are interested in expanding their portfolio and providing a cloud-based surveillance solution, now is really the time, because people are thinking about this. They're thinking about the shortcomings of their on-site solution. They're thinking, oh, I don't have enough cameras to cover what I exactly need to see, right? So I think taking advantage of, I hate to say it during this time, but taking advantage of a pandemic, a time like this, I mean, you're really going to get a lot of people that are either itching at the claw to get to it, or they have it in the back of their mind and they're just waiting for somebody to bring it up and say, hey, I can solve this problem for you. As well as provide businesses with all of their essential needs. So you've handled their VoIP, you've handled, their access points and whatnot. Why not also give them a security solution to where they're getting everything in a package, a bundle, directly to them from one provider? I think that's most important, especially when you get into dealing with multiple resellers or multiple businesses to provide you with services. It gets a little hectic, right? Then you already have other subscriptions going on, whether that's internet service or any other application that you may be using to run your business. This can reduce that headache. And again, bundling, it's highly successful method of selling BSaaS products. Given a low cost, provide a single seat perhaps of retention, even a camera maybe, for all new contracts. So any VoIP products that you may sell, just bundle in one seat of retention for CamCommand at a low retention period of 7 days, and maybe even also roll in a piece of hardware, include a camera with it, and just say, hey, you're paying for VoIP, this is included with it, feel free to use it, install it, really see how it works. And I guarantee that if somebody gets something that they think is free in a sense, they install it and they're interacting with it, they're gonna see the usefulness of it upfront and right away. That's regardless if they have an on-premise solution already or they have nothing and they're seeing the benefits that come along with having a camera. They'll say, hey, I need more, and at that point you can roll in further cameras into a bundle or start to charge separately for that service. Bundling can also include financing a new camera, again, to where they're essentially paying a monthly fee for the camera and you're just rolling in the retention period. So they don't necessarily own the equipment, they're just leasing it per se. That way, as advanced equipment rolls out, say a new model's available and the contract period's done, they can get not only newer equipment, but still keep that same functionality that they're used to with the CamCommand platform, as well as this also works by including some type of service or replacement agreement as well in the bundle, to where you're not only providing the camera, the solution, but you're also providing, on-site calls if equipment happens to break or if it's stolen. You can have some type of replacement agreement for that. Again, just ensuring that you have all of your bases covered. And to be honest, with these solutions, since it's just a camera and a PoE switch, typically the idea of a service call is slim to none. You're typically not going to have to deal with that with this type of solution.
That's all great, Justin. That's super. Yeah. So at the end, so everybody knows, we'll have Justin's email contact details. So those of you who are out there who need some support from the team at SkySwitch on how to sell it or how to service it, how to support it, you'll be able to contact Justin directly. That was a great presentation about something which is so timely and so needed. And I really want to thank you for putting so much time and energy as we switch over to our good friend Phil Lembo from CyberData, who is safely ensconced in Monmouth Lakes, California, far away from his usual coastal view of Monterey. Good morning, Phil. Welcome to the webinar.
Good morning. Thank you for having me here.
I'm really interested in, with everything that's been going on, and we came up with the idea of the Safe Work webinar. And I thought of you because you've been saying, Andy, how can we tell more of the resellers about what we do and the valuable service and the products that we have at CyberData? And I said, I'm waiting for the right opportunity, because there's nothing worse than trying to force a square peg into a round hole. And nothing more than as soon as the COVID-19 situation happened and people were having to be sent home from work, it dawned on me that there's still people who need to be at work, and CyberData's got so many great solutions. What are some of the things you've observed?
Well, let me first start off by reaching back to a conversation we had earlier today about having people on this webinar here, and to keep them on after 30 minutes or so. CyberData at the end of this is going to be raffling off one of our video intercom products, one of our SIP paging adapters, and one of our IP66 outdoor horns. So everybody stay online, because those are going to be available, and they're SIP devices that easily integrate in with the SkySwitch system, and we'll talk about that a little bit more in detail. So
that's great. Thank you.
Yeah. So, and from a cyber data perspective, we are classified as an essential company, and we're in operation. A lot of people are working remote, but our manufacturing and engineering teams in Monterey are while running split shifts and doing everything correctly as far as keeping the everything safe. We're in full operation, and we're producing products, and we're shipping and supporting customers out there. So you can rest assured that during this time, we're here to help, and we'll be here for you. I think really what the main objective today is that as we go through these different scenarios and observations, and how our products can be utilized in this new normal situation that we're in, if we can define it that way, is that for all the resellers out there, cyber data gives you the ability to add additional things to sell, additional seat license, additional hardware sales, and there's lots of applications. There's lots of scenarios that can be utilized. But for today, we're going to focus just really kind of on safety and how we can use these products in this kind of environment. We've had a lot of inquiries in the last couple of months about people trying to figure out how to separate themselves from a potential infection, I guess you can say it that way, where I don't necessarily want to talk to you right now directly within 6 feet or less, and maybe there's a way that we can provide some kind of piece of hardware or a notification or an intercom or something that will let that separation between the one person and another person, keep that at a distance that they'll be safe. So we're seeing a lot of applications in hospitals and in other types of fire stations, other types of facilities where you want to keep that distance, where normally you just walk right in and start talking to somebody. So that's kind of what we're going to be talking about, different kinds of applications for that.
It's great, Phil. I was thinking back to my days with the Philadelphia Flyers at the Spectrum, and all the different situations we had, and I was on the computer decision-making team of anything related to telecommunications, computer purchases. When everybody else had minis, I had a microcomputer, otherwise known as a compact, and before that an Osborne. And I bought the first System 75 ever put into an arena from AT&T, and I'm thinking about all the things as you're talking, and I'm like, ticket office, somebody comes to the ticket office, we had this big pane of glass, and it would always be an argument about what was said between the ticket buyer and the ticket seller. And because we were trying to cut down on scalping back then in the 80s. And one of the things that dawned on me is your remote speaking system, being that it's SIP based, I could have plugged that in to my System 75, gotten a recording, and there would be no question if somebody was doing something they shouldn't do, meaning selling more tickets than they're allowed to a scalper. And then right. I think of other scenarios in our semi-outdoor environment along the tunnel. And like I started the show with, all of these things have rushed through my head that weren't available 30, 40 years ago, not easily. And yet my telecommunications consultant was a crack guy named Harry Keeby. He must be good if I can remember it 35 years later who he was. But Harry was always bringing me solutions like what you have to meet these different use cases, because we were at the bleeding edge of sports arenas in the country, always #1 in the Polestar rating. So what are some of the use cases that you've observed that are so relevant today that, gosh, I wish I had it 35 years ago?
Sure, let's take a couple of them, and we're gonna sort of rush through these at rapid pace here. But the first one is in schools and having to do with notification. And once again, all these products that we have are SIP based. All these products register on the SkySwitch system as an extension on your phone, and all these products utilize the backbone of the VoIP infrastructure to be able to do the things they need to do. No licensing, no special software. They just basically, they're really a phone, but in a package that is utilized for something special. So paging in schools, being able to let people know when there's a certain event happens, some kind of an emergency notification, tornado, so on and so forth. Those are products that easily integrate in with an existing SkySwitch system and provide a solution for schools from a safety perspective. Fire panel integration. So typically in a fire panel, what you have is sensors that are located around the facility. They detect a fire or someone pulls an alarm. And what we do is that we allow that integration of that fire panel system into the public address and paging system, so that when you have a fire alarm that goes off and you hear the bell and the strobe go off, now what you can do is that you can also have a broadcast that plays a pre-recorded audio message through the phone system, through the paging speakers that will give explicit instructions on how and what to do during that event, rather than just a bell like that goes off in an area. So there's another example of from a safety perspective of how to integrate in something in the phone system with a real life fire type scenario that might go on.
What other things are really driving this that you're seeing? Because you're talking to resellers, you might even be talking to some end users. What are some of the other things that are driving the whole need for safe work devices today?
I think that like I said earlier, I think what we're observing is how can we separate people, and I hate to say that, but separate people and get them the information that they need, be able to communicate with them, and do that in such a way where the message is delivered very clearly and safely from a potential infection perspective. And in this scenario here, we talk about the patient safe video intake. Surprisingly, and everybody has this experience, I'm sure, is you go to a doctor's office, and after you check in, they take you to a room, and you usually sit in that room for a while. And, you used to read magazines. Now, fortunately, you have phones that you can play with. And then a physician's assistant would arrive and come in and talk to you and take some information down and then make sure you look okay and kind of take observations. They would go away. They'd go back to their computer terminal, and they would enter in the information about you, print that out, and hand that to the doctor. And sometime later, the doctor would come in and talk to you. So in a clinic, in a doc in a box, in a scenario where you have people coming in, that physician's assistant has to go into all these rooms and have that sort of direct contact up close with that individual. We've been providing video intercom solutions where the patient goes into that room, the physician's assistant sits at a desk and has either a video phone or a PC client, once again writing on the SkySwitch system, and has a two-way video conversation with that person, taking all that information and entering it into the computer, and separating that person and limiting the amount of potential risk that physician's assistant would have to integrate or to talk with all the different people that might come in during the day and potentially might have a virus that they have to deal with. So that's an example of something that is really a need in the marketplace right now.
So when I saw this, and you sent something around to us about a month ago, which helped spur the idea of the Safe Work webinar, so thank you for that. I immediately thought of all the laboratories that people have to go to provide specimen samples, whether it's blood or something else. And I was thinking, you walk in, somebody hands you a piece of paper, then they hand you what your necessary items that you have to deposit your specimen in, or they have to take your blood, things like that. And I started realizing that with what you've got, it could almost become self-service for some medical labs for some types of testing where it's saliva or other bodily fluids that need to be contributed for the testing. But there doesn't need to be a person handing me that. I could be given that in a safe, secure. I could be given a pair of gloves, be handed to me in a safe, in a bag. How is the video intercom being used today in some of those environments? And is there a way that you can suggest to resellers to pursue that category? Because medical labs are everywhere, and they're not just the national brands.
Yeah, I think that's a great point. So every situation could be slightly different, obviously, depending on the situation. My recommendation is that the resellers contact us for specific applications and let our design team work with them to figure out a solution. But right now, it's ripe for the picking for all these kind of specialty communication type of applications where they want to separate the patient or the person from another person. And as we go through some of these other scenarios, you'll kind of see that there's a multitude of opportunities for the resellers to go into new clients and existing clients. And maybe these new and existing clients only have phones, but now with this opportunity here, a potential opportunity for a cyber data product, for another couple seat licenses and another couple of hardware products that can be sold.
I think you've created the category of professional distancing.
Yes.
So why don't we move on to some other use cases that you have?
Sure. I'm just going to give you some, like I said, there's lots of examples here, and these are just a bunch of different ones that we've actually had experience with, and that could be of use. And there's, like I said, there's variations of these, but in this particular scenario, we have an assisted care facility, and with our devices, our help buttons, and our IP speakers, once again, that right on the backbone of the VoIP system. There's no software. There's SIP endpoints. You'd have a situation where you'd have a button that a patient or someone that works at the facility would push. What it does is it makes a SIP call. It makes a call to an extension. That extension can be a speaker. It can be a strobe light. It can be a number of different items that create a notification and plays a stored audio message that says, okay, room 24 needs some help, or problem in the bathroom, or someone has fallen. There's a lot of different use cases for this, but in this scenario here, a button would be located in maybe a common area or in one of the rooms of a person being taken care of. And if there's a problem, they would press that button, and it would ring either the paging system, or it would ring the nursing station and play the message saying that there's an event that needs attention, and gives them a way of notifying them.
This ties directly into the alerting model that Justin and I were talking about before. And what it sounds like CyberData has done is created a solution to do an alert to the right duty station on premise at the nursing home, or in a hospital, or in an elder care facility, wherever it may be. Exactly
right.
These are great.
So let's go over a couple more here. So in this particular one here, this is more of a fun one here. Mount Sinai Hospital in New York has integrated in some of our IP paging products, once again within the phone system, and it's going through a product that we have called the SIP paging server. And the SIP paging server has the ability where if you call it as an extension, so you call up extension 222, for example, it will actually play a stored audio file that the user can upload itself. And in this scenario, kind of a good feeling scenario here, it plays Here Comes the Sun. And when the patients are well enough to be released from their intensive care or the hospital, and they're wheeled out, they're playing this song coming out the paging speakers. Kind of a neat.
That's
neat
great.
Idea. Yeah.
And they can really customize it for almost any type of song. Right now, unfortunately, there's probably a lot of taps being played.
Right, exactly. Yeah, that's for sure.
What's a fast food example, or for a service station, gas station, oil change place? What do you see for those places?
Yeah, so right now, if you go to a gas station and you have a problem, you need to walk in to the store or the cubicle where the person is behind the cash register and tell them you have a problem, or you have to give them some more information and so on and so forth. With our products, effectively, you could take one of our outdoor rated intercoms, mount those next to the gas pump, and the person, the customer would, if it has an issue, would push the button, would then start blinking a light above that person, showing that there's a problem in that area, have a two-way conversation with the person in the office, and then not only be able to have a two-way conversation, but if it's something that's sort of affects everybody in that area, maybe like there's a leak or something, then they'd be able to page to an outdoor speaker saying, alerting the customers that there's an issue, and without any physical contact by the person working behind the counter.
What's really interesting here, Phil, is that it's not just voice notifications and voice conversations. You've got other forms of alerts and notifications that can be deployed in a service station or convenience store parking lot environment. What are they?
Well, there's things that are visual, of course, visual notifications like our strobe light, very, very bright RGB, meaning it can be any color that's defined by the user, and in some loud, high ambient noise areas, you'll find that the strobe will be an effective method to gain attention of the people that are in that area. And this, by the way, is not limited only to outdoor type applications, but in buildings where they have warehouses where forklifts are running, or machine shops, and they want to have somebody say, hey, there's something going on here, and they can't hear because maybe they're wearing ear protection, then they'd be able to get a visual notification of what's happening.
These are also good for hotels where people are auditory challenged because they may be hard of hearing or deaf, and they need to be notified that there's somebody at the door, so they can't hear the person knocking, but they could certainly see the strobe blinking or flashing on a desk or on a wall that would command their attention.
We have an installation in the Northeast somewhere, which is a school for the deaf, and they have a whole installation with all of our strobes, so that when there's a notification and a certain type of event, they blink a different color based on that type of event, and the students and the teachers know by the color that's being blinked that what they need to do and what attention needs to be given.
It was a great high school for the deaf in, I think, Washington, D.C., and then Calumet College, I think, in Illinois, is another one that has incredible programs. They may be places that are interested in what you have. What else do we have to say today?
Yeah, so if you go to the next slide here, let's see what we've got. We've got, so this is one that's a relatively new one that came about a week or so ago. We got an inquiry from a fire station, and typically fire stations always have an open door policy, where you go up to the door and to a fire station, you walk in, and there's going to be, I need some help, and it can be almost anything. I don't feel well. I've got an issue of some sort of health particular problem, or whatever. And so the chief of this particular fire station said, we need to make sure that we understand who's got the front door, and is that person sick? And if they are sick, then maybe we're not going to let them in right away. Maybe we need to put our protective clothing on. We need to get our masks on. We need to get this all organized before we open the door. So in this scenario here, using one of our outdoor video intercoms, the person coming in from the street would press that, be able to have a two-way conversation to either a video phone, or to a video client, which is running on a PC, which we have a free video client that we provide for both Mac, iOS, Android, and PC, and be able to have a two-way conversation with them, and from the keypad, either on the PC or the video phone, be able to buzz the person in, unlock that door, and let that person come in. So in this area now where you don't maybe you don't want to have direct physical contact with the person first. You want to find out what their story is. This is a great solution and can be applied in almost any type of customer business application.
Fire stations, police stations, if you're surfing these days, the beaches are open in some parts of the country and the lifeguards have to be out there and they're in the lifeguard towers. All of those places are ideal for the outdoor video intercom that you're offering through CyberData.
Right, and once again, easy integration within the SkySwitch system for sure.
That's great. What else do we have to talk about today?
Let's see what our next slide is here. Yeah, so
I really like this because this delves into helping the reseller sell, because you guys offer a lot of services, not just the product. And when we were talking a couple weeks ago, this really hit home because I really think that the resellers, when they're selling something unique and different, like what CyberData or even CamCommand has, that the consultative approach that both companies have, both CyberData and SkySwitch, to helping a reseller move a system through to a customer and make the customer happy is so important. Can you talk about some of the consultative services that have made you so successful with resellers?
Yeah, so that's the differential that we have with other people in the marketplace, is that we pride ourselves with being responsive to customer questions, inquiries, design examples. We're there to help. We don't charge for this service, and if it's the installation of a one intercom or an entire school system, we're going to be there to help you figure out what parts you need, how it's integrated, and give you use cases that is something that you can go back to your customers and present as a solution. And I invite every reseller within the SkySwitch world to contact us, and if you have a scenario where you need some help, we're there. We're going to be there to help you, not only from a pre-sales perspective, design services. We'll tell you what types of products you need, but also from a support perspective. And we have live support located in Monterey, California. You talk to real people that know this networking, they know VoIP, they know our products, and we're going to be able to solve your problems and make this work for you.
This has been really helpful. You know, everybody who's listening, ask questions, because if you ask a question, that's kind of how you become eligible to win prizes. How do people find you, Phil?
Yeah, so a number of different ways. Obviously, on our website, cyberdata.net. You can contact us via telephone. There's a number listed there. My email address is always there. I'll even provide my cell phone number for anybody that wants to call. And if I can't answer the question for you, I'm going to find someone that will.
Great. So let's do this. We've got a bunch of questions, and then we're also going to have Justin's Justin's information at the end. First question, and this one's probably aimed more at Justin. It comes from Robert Haney. Good morning, Robert. Robert wants to know if different states have different licensing or regulatory requirements to deploy a video surveillance solution. What do you know about that, Just?
Yes, and to answer that just upfront, absolutely. And typically what the requirements revolve around is just the actual installation of, say, a surveillance camera. And it does vary state to state. In fact, I only think that there are 5 states that have no regulation on who can install what. In our knowledge base, I will be sure to post a state-by-state yes or no, whether or not it's required, as well as a link to the public official, the information that's provided by the government as to what those stipulations may be. Now, one thing to also consider with this type of regulation is that I know a lot of our resellers like to install their own equipment. So what you can also have as a back pocket option is to just hire a licensed professional to simply do the installation, or have the client itself find somebody to do the actual install, because actually hosting and providing the service of a cloud-based video surveillance system does not typically require a license.
And then Robert had a follow-up question, and this one deals with actually both services. Phil sort of talked about it on his side, but He wanted to know, what if the internet connection is lost? Is there any local storage or backup for it in case the net goes down?
Sure. In terms of CamCommand, there's definitely always redundant solutions. By redundancy, I mean you have recording taking place both locally as well as on the cloud. And the cool thing about CamCommand is that with most cameras out there, we do actually have the ability to directly interface with, say, an SD card that's installed on the camera. So say you have an SD card that's installed on the camera, you lose the internet, it comes back up, and you want to actually see that footage from CamCommand, you can do so directly from the interface. The same goes for most all NAS devices. You can interface with that directly. So say you have 30 days worth of storage on your NAS device and only 7 days of storage on the cloud. You will have direct access from the timeline to be able to go back that 30 days that's stored on the NAS device or even SD card.
Steve Stomkowski asked, what are some of the preferred IP cameras to use with CamCommand?
Sure. And again, if you've been on the webinar the whole time, we do offer plug and play cameras, and I would always specify to use those first and foremost, if possible. The brands that support the plug and play are going to be Axis, Amcrest, Hanwha, which is Samsung, as well as Spico and Uniden cameras. Now with Hanwha, you will be limited to just their X and WiseNet series of cameras, but that's still, we're talking, 50 to 60 different types of cameras. Outside of that, I mean, it's really no preference. If you have a brand that you sell, I mean, I can imagine that it's going to be compatible. You'll just have to connect using the traditional method of port forwarding and managing that user's network.
Another question that came from Robert Harney, can we convert current on-prem solutions over to CamCommand?
Absolutely. Now that would be dependent on, of course, the camera and what it's capable of. I say we're compatible with 90% of the cameras on the market, those being the ones that support H.264 encoding or MJPEG encoding, and those that are not connected directly to a device. So cameras that are connected directly to an NVR, obviously we would not be able to connect directly to the NVR unit, so you would have to put those cameras out separately on the network, say to a PoE switch. From that, you can definitely split it back out to where those cameras can be accessed by both the NVR as well as by CamCommand. So yes, always keep in mind that third-party cameras can be connected. You'll just have to use the traditional, again, port forwarding or DDNS or static IP method of connection, and just ensure that they are H.264 or MJPEG encoding compatible.
Another last question from Robert Harney. He says and this one's going to go to Phil Lembo of Cyberdata. Robert says he has 2 analog call boxes hooked up into an old Valcom box to a ComDial solution. I would like to reuse the old call boxes. Can they be connected into a Cyberdata solution? Phil?
Yeah, so as you convert over from an analog system to a digital system, those old analog call boxes unfortunately cannot be used. So to get something converted over to a VoIP situation here, a VoIP application, you're going to have a VoIP intercom, like one of our outdoor intercom call boxes, basically, and it's really connects up just like a phone does with a single PoE connection. But unfortunately, the old analog call box cannot be utilized.
Okay, and then a question from Lance Walsh. He says, Cyberdata with your software, is there an app for the iPhone or the iPad that works with any of your solutions?
Yeah, so what we have in the that's downloadable for free is something we call the Cyber Soft Phone. And the Cyber Soft Phone basically is a SIP client that can be on a PC, iOS, or Android. And that's really designed specifically to be a device that would integrate with our video door phone, so that when somebody presses a button on the video door phone, it will ring the telephone or the phone or the PC running that soft client software, and you'd be able to have a two-way conversation with that individual and be able to buzz them in if they wanted to utilize that function.
Right. Dan Daly says, and I think this is for both of you guys. We are located in Cherry Hill, New Jersey, across the river from Philadelphia, and are a SkySwitch reseller. Can you offer installation options to us in both states, because they work in both New Jersey and Pennsylvania, and probably Delaware? Guys, is there any restrictions that you know of in either of those states for either of what you're selling?
In terms of CamCommand, again, that would just come down to each state's individual regulation as to what exact license you need, or certificate that you need, or training that you need in order to install cameras specifically. So if you're working across multiple states, you'd probably have to get certified in each of those in order to successfully install a service.
Yeah, and from on my side, if you can install a phone and you're certified to do that, you can install a CyberData product.
This one's for Justin from Dale Morgan. How do PTZ cameras, meaning point, tilt, zoom cameras, react within a hosted system like CamCommand?
Well, with CamCommand, any PTZ camera is compatible. That is compatible, can be controlled directly from the interface. So you'll have access to the pan, tilt, zoom features directly from CamCommand in both the mobile application as well as the web interface.
And then a question from Pei Wu. Does either the CamCommand or CyberData equipment have a door strike option where a key press of a phone could open a door, or open a garage, or open a lift gate? What can they do?
From the CamCommand side, you can integrate with, I know Axis has a doorbell with a camera built in that has actually an extensive feature list to where, yes, you can control, say, it wouldn't necessarily be from the CamCommand app, but you could tie it into, say, a phone to where, you know, with the phone, you can dial in a certain number, or, you know, push pound, and at that point, it can unlock a strike pad that's tied into that particular doorbell. I believe Grandstream also offers a small access point with the camera built in as well. So yes, I'm sure it's possible within the PBX side. The camera itself would just be built into the CamCommand platform, you know, recording and sending notifications when somebody steps up to the door itself.
And then from Bill Smith, he asked the question, why not use Reach UC, either mobile or desktop, as the video phone, as the endpoint for what you guys are doing?
Could you repeat the question one more time?
Bill Smith wants to know why a user shouldn't use the Reach UC application. That's our white labelable soft client for mobile or desktop as the video phone versus something.
No reason at all. No reason
at all not to use it. You're saying it can be used.
Yep.
Okay, great. And then I think we had one other question. Somebody wanted to know if the cameras are going to be in the store that you rattled off. Justin, can you work with Kelly to answer Steve Stemkowski's question? I directed him to write to Kelly in a chat at store@skyswitch.com, but can you just rattle off the cameras that are currently available, and rather than all the cameras that can work with it?
Absolutely. Currently, Hanwha devices are directly available from the store. I'm unfortunately not sure how long or if those will remain, as we are looking to replace them with a little more applicable and cost-effective Amcrest solution. Again, plug-and-play devices, and we'll have multiple models loaded into the store, hopefully, if not by the end of this month, then early next month.
And then to Preya Inyang, you asked, what's the requirements for a company outside the United States to qualify as a reseller? Well, for SkySwitch, we only are currently supporting resellers in Canada and the United States, though the future, that may change. CyberData, where do you sell, Phil?
Worldwide. So all of our products are available on the SkySwitch store, and we invite the resellers to go and buy there. Overseas, we're widely distributed with a variety of different distribution partners.
That sounds great. Bill Smith, last question, says, I have the door strike feature working with CyberData 01186. Pins 3 and 4 are a dry relay that activates when the program DTMF is used. The relay in the door phone connects to an RTX relay in the access control box. Okay. So is there an easier way to do that, Phil, that you know of, or is he doing everything the right way?
That actually sounds right. If you have an existing system in place where you have a door controller unit, in that particular case, what he was talking about, then you would actually make the connections there at the door controller. Alternatively, if it's a single door with a door strike, you'd be able to make that connection right at the door itself without having to go back to a separate controller.
Great. Well, we've run long today. I want to thank our audience for sticking around. I want to really thank Justin and Phil for being such gracious presenters and providing so much information. You know, every week we do these, and every week we really appreciate the time and effort and energy that our guests take. Phil, why don't you quickly rattle off just what are those 3 prizes again that some lucky participant in the webinar will receive?
Sure. These are 3 of our SIP-based products. Once again, easily integrated within the SkySwitch system. They are SIP endpoints and will be an extension. The first one is a video intercom. It's an outdoor IP66 rated video intercom. The second one is our SIP paging adapter. That particular device is one of our most popular items, where what it does is it is sort of a gateway between, or a bridge between, the VoIP system and legacy analog paging systems. So if there's an existing paging system within your customer's environment and they want to reutilize that old amplifier and speakers that are out there, this product provides that interface to be able to do that. And then finally, our very popular IP66 outdoor horn, which can be placed in any outdoor environment, single PoE connection. You call it, and now you have the ability to do a live outdoor page, or to a huge area like a gymnasium or a pool, for example, that's indoors. It works really, really well.
So it really cuts through the noise. I want to thank everybody for joining us today. The recording will be put up shortly by our erstwhile producer, Emily Vasquez, who really does such a great job at prepping and getting everybody, including me, ready for the weekly webinars. We'll be emailing the availability of the recording. It's also going to be posted to the SkySwitch blog. For those of you who are interested, next Tuesday, same time, 11 a.m. Eastern, we are going to have the folks from Jenny telling us all about Yealink. So if you're interested in Yealink products, and we know that many of our resellers are into Yealink and move a lot of Yealink product, this is your chance to learn not only what's been going on with Yealink, but what's going to be new. I'm Andy Abramson. I'm the Chief Marketing Officer of SkySwitch. We really appreciate you being with us today. Thank you all very much.